This episode of the Beauty Industry podcast was brought to you in collaboration with Hair Aid, changing the world one haircut at a time. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here, we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today's guest is Selina Tomasich of Hair Aid. Hair Aid is an Australian non-profit organisation that works globally to make a difference and create change by teaching people living in poverty the skill of hair cutting. Once they've been trained, people can start their own micro-business, cutting hair in their own communities, earning money. With money, they can then support their families by buying fresh water and food, educate their children, and move into housing. 5,000 people have now been trained by Hair Aid since 2010, and now Selina and the team are putting the call out to the professional beauty industry for our help in any way possible, which is why I wanted to speak with Selina today to see how exactly that looks. Selina and the Hair Aid story is one which birthed out of a holiday to Manila involving 2 nuns, a sewing machine, and a conversation. I'll let Selina tell you the story from the beginning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I first heard the Hair Aid story when you were actually on a stage, and I thought, what is this Hair Aid? And I was truthfully sitting there in the crowd going, as a beauty therapist, I don't know if I want to listen to this. It's not in my industry, but I sat there captivated by your story. And by the end, I was like, how can I help? What can I do? And then when I saw you at the Brisbane Hair and Beauty Expo, I was like, that's it. We need to connect this. But obviously with everything that has gone on, that's been a little stagnant. So I'm so glad that we can chat with you on the podcast today and see everything and hear your entire story of Hair Aid.
Oh, thank you. The story is actually really remarkable, and I think it's more remarkable because I'm not even a hairdresser, and I'm definitely not in the beauty industry. If your listeners could see me right now, they could tell both of those. So it's really interesting that I'm almost an outsider to the industry, but I run Hair Aid, and it's because that the value we can create with what I do for Hair Aid, but also our stylists and our beauticians and our supporters and our stakeholders and product companies and everything, what we do together is amazing, and it changes people's lives. And you're right just right now, with the world changing and being so fragile, I think we're all searching just a little bit to go, what can we do? How can we help? And sometimes this week the answer is we can't help. We need to just do what we're supposed to do, stay inside, not engage. But I think when the world settles and the clouds are a little bit clearer, people will be saying, you know what, I am really grateful for what I have. I'd love to give back. And I think Hair Aid's a great vehicle for people in the hair and beauty industry to give back too.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that we are starting this conversation chatting about gratitude. I've made it a real point of mine before I go to bed every night to say and find things, 3 things that I am grateful for. And, sometimes it's been the small things like having a community or having food on my plate to eat. I think we take these things such for granted, and it's almost upsetting that it takes something like this for us to stop and realize how fortunate we truly are.
Yeah, and I think that for many of the volunteers that have been on a Hair Aid project and seen what I call critical poverty, I think that they already probably had an understanding of that. But even the situation for them, many of them are contacting me saying, I didn't know what it felt like, not knowing where next week's paycheck is going to come from. And we actually even know that we're going to be okay because no matter what, we'll get some support. however that support might be. But yeah, you really can't experience some of the critical poverty that exists in the world. And I know myself, in regards to gratitude, one of the things that I have said for many years, every time I get in a shower, and I can have a shower in fresh water, and I'm not worried about whether or not I open my mouth and get any water in it, otherwise it might make me sick. I'm just incredibly grateful every day when I have a shower. I'm so grateful to have fresh, clean water and somewhere safe to live and food. So yeah.
We are very, very lucky and very privileged. Now, Selina, I'd love to start at the beginning of your story. Before Hair Aid was the thing that we know it to be, and know all the incredible work you've done at the moment, where did it start? I believed it was a bit of a life-changing holiday to Manila for you. What happened on this holiday, if you don't mind?
So my husband and I were flash packing. I don't know whether people use that term, but I do. We were flash packing through the Philippines, which basically meant we had a backpack on our backs, and we had 4 weeks of just discovering off-beaten tracks and everything. And we were ready to come home. It was time to come home to reality, to our jobs. My husband is a police officer and I'm a university lecturer. And we were sitting in Metro Manila waiting for our plane the next day. And my husband said, "You know what? I feel like a beer and I want to go and watch the football." So we Googled Australian pubs in Manila because we wanted to watch the Australian football. And we found this tiny little one called Outback Jack's. So it was in that really, really rugged Australian pub. It came complete with a stuffed crocodile on the wall and Vegemite toast on the menu. And it was very tiny. It was a bit off-beaten. But we tracked it down and we went on in to watch the football. But the football that my husband wanted to watch wasn't playing. But that's okay because we still had cold beer and we're Australians and we were happy with that. So after a while, these 2 ladies walked into the bar, and I'm a bit of a habit chat. I like to talk to people. I like to, just find out their stories, and and I've always been like that. So these 2 ladies walked in and sat near us, which they had to sit near us because the pub was that small, and one was Australian and one was Canadian. So I said to them, "Hi, my name's Selina. Who are you? What are you doing? Are you on holidays? Do you live here? You're traveling?" And the first lady I spoke to, whose name was Claudia, said, "I'm an academic and I teach at university." And for me, that was like, even 10 years now later, I think that is incredible, to meet another academic that taught business and the same subjects that I taught at university with team dynamics and entrepreneurship was just incredible. So I had a lovely chat with Claudia. And then I said to the other lady, "Oh, what do you do? You here? Do you live here?" And she said, "Yes, I work for an organisation that collects the children in the street because their parents have left them there, hoping that a charity will pick them up because they're too poor to feed them and their children are going to die." And I said to her, "Oh, so you work for an orphanage?" And she said, No, it's not an orphanage." She said, "We're a little bit different." She said, "What we do is we collect the children, we keep them safe, and we feed them, and we look after their spiritual needs because it's a Catholic society over there. And they delouse them and they give them somewhere safe to be. But then after a couple of days and the children feel safe, and they say to them, 'What's your parents' name? Where do you live? What's your brother and sister's names?' And with that information, they go back to that location and they find the parents. And then they say to the parents, 'Look, we've got your child and they're safe, but why did you leave them on the street?' And the answer is, we're too poor to feed them. And they know by leaving the children on the street is where the charities will go and the NGOs will go and the orphanages will go. And sometimes the child adoption agencies will also send representatives there. And they believe that the children will be collected and looked after and be given a better life than they can give them. The reality is, though, that's where the drug runners collect the children and the mafia and the prostitution gangs, and they watch out for these kids and they go there, and sometimes they'll even watch the parents drop them off and they'll approach them and they'll be well dressed and they'll pretend to be child adoption agencies or something like that. And sometimes they'll even pay the parent to take the child $50. And the parents go home thinking the child has a new life and that they're safe, but the reality isn't that. So the cool thing about the story, there's no cool parts about that, but the cool part about the story is that these two beautiful ladies that we spoke to originally were actually nuns. They were sisters of the church, and they'd snuck into the pub themselves to watch the football and grab a cold beer. So the story of Hair Aid starts with two nuns walking into a bar and us having a drink. And through these discussions. So when they were explaining to me that they tried to reconnect the children back with the parents, my business brain said, that's fabulous, but aren't you just going to be picking these kids up again in 6 months' time? Like, you haven't solved the problem, and it's a bit of a treadmill. And Sister Kate, as it turns out, said to me, yes, but we try and work with the parents and we give them a livelihood skill. So even if they have some way of earning some money, they can keep their family together, they can buy food, send their kids to school, and eventually, through generational change and education, their lives will change. And I said, that's fabulous. What do you teach them? And she said, oh, we're no good at it. She said, but we'd love to start a sewing centre. Now, in a previous life for me, before I was an academic, I was an interior designer, and I ran my own sewing business, a very large soft furnishings business in Queensland. And I can sew, and we had a factory full of sewing machines way back then. And I just said to her, oh, I could do that. That's easy. So I went back to the university I was teaching at, and I said to some of my university students, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to set up a sewing centre for these people so they can teach the parents so they don't have to give their children up. Come and help me. And that will give you business skills for you to get a job. So we did. About 8 months later, we went back with 6 donated sewing machines, and we taught 19 parents how to sew. And that meant, 21 children went home, because sometimes they don't leave one child, sometimes they leave 2 in the street. But it means that 21 children went home to a family that had an income. And so I did that for a couple of years. We taught them how to sew. And then after a while, I could just see the need was so great. And I said to them, what else do you need? Like, how else can we help you? And they said, well, can you teach us English? Because if we have better English skills, we can work in the markets and the tourists. And I said, yeah, absolutely, but that's easy. What else do you need? And that's when they said to me, hair cutting. Now, hair cutting, I'm not a hairstylist. I never have been, never will be. And I'm like, okay. And they explained to me that in the Philippines, because that's where we started Hair Aid, but I've now found out it's in all the Southeast Asian countries where we work, it is illegal for boys to go to school if their hair touches their collar. And every school child has to have a regulation haircut. So it either has to be, for girls, it's just a straight cut, a little tiny fringe, or a little bob, and for boys, straight back and sides. So that's what we teach them. And the great thing about it is that's an immediate income for them. No matter how rich or poor you are, you need your haircut to go to school. And I came back to Australia. I said to the hairdressing community, hey, can you help me? Because I can't do it. And with a resounding yes, we've, been doing hair, teaching hair cutting skills, 8.5 years, I think we are now. And we've trained more than 5,500 people. We now gift every one of our trainees a toolkit. So it's not like we go there and then they have to buy a toolkit for $50 to get started or anything like that, because these people live in pure poverty. We give them the skills. In 5 days, we can teach them 5 basic haircuts, and then we give them a toolkit. It's gifted to them. It's free. They walk away from us and their life is changed. They begin cutting hair within 10 minutes of finishing, and they can buy rice and they can buy food, and their children, eventually they can, maybe if they're living on the streets, they can move into the slums, or they'll move into a better slum with with lights so their children can do their schoolwork at night time, and they can get health care and better food and better water. Just the benefits are huge, huge.
Oh my goodness. That is such a goosebump story, it's a goosebump giving story. How serendipitous of you to be in a random pub with not only somebody who was in your specific profession studying the exact same things as you, but also the sewing. I mean, the fact that you knew how to sew, the fact that you had those resources and could turn around and help these people within the blink of a second, that is just, we talk about things being in alignment. That is on another level.
Today, even more than anything, when I say, we've had so many hurdles to do what we've had to do over there. Every time you go into a community, you don't just walk in and go, hey, we're going to teach you how to cut hair. You've got to work with community managers and government and all that. And every time I've needed something, the exact right thing has happened right in front of me. But still, that conversation right there, that was Sister Claudia, that to meet another academic sitting in a pub in the back blocks of Manila that taught entrepreneurship and team dynamics still blows me away. It's just, it's meant to be. And, I'm thankful that that occurred. Interesting, the two lovely sisters, we still catch up with them when we go back to the Philippines, and we make sure they're okay. We don't meet in the pub anymore. We meet at Starbucks. We're so much more grown up. But it was hilarious because Sister Kate, they told us that they were nuns. We'd been talking to them for a couple of hours, and they told us that they were nuns. And then she'd said to me before I walked out, she said, "But can you not tell anyone that we were in the pub drinking beer?" They know that I tell everybody now. They know this. But of course, it's sort of hilarious that they sort of said that. And Sister Kate said to me, because obviously they weren't wearing their nun clothes, they were just wearing clothes. And Sister Kate said to me, she said, "We never tell anyone we're nuns. We never tell anyone we're sisters. Never. She said, "I don't even know what possessed me to tell you that at that conversation." And the other part of it was, she says to me, "I've never," because when I said, "Look, I'm going to help you. I'll do what I can." And we swapped all the details and everything. She said, "You don't know how many people we meet that say, 'Yes, we'll help you,' and they don't." She said, "I never expected to see you again." And of course, from that one conversation, we've created amazing things, and we work in 4 different countries around the world now, and we work with people that do live in critical poverty, people that they're street dwellers or they live in the slums. We work with women that have been rescued from the sex trade or they've been trafficked as young children. We work with people that are hooked on drugs. We work with older orphans. This is something I've only found out in the last year and a bit, is that with the orphans in all the countries that we work in, once you hit 16 years of age, if you're still in the orphanage, it's see you later. Thanks for being here. We can't do any more. You have to leave, and you become a street dweller. You walk out the door. But we also work in prisons. So we have a lot of the ladies, and that's taken a huge amount of effort to get permission to do that. But we work with ladies that have been incarcerated, and mostly they've been incarcerated because they've been caught for prostitution or selling drugs, or they've stolen something to try and sell to. And ultimately they're doing it because it's how they survive, keep themselves alive, and or keep their children alive. It's from that small conversation, we're doing amazing things around the world, and working with incredible people that are supporting these people, all the time. And I sometimes think that some of what we do is such a small part of what they're doing to support these ladies. But when I'm over there and I watch those ladies after 5 days, and the realization in their face that they have a skill that can change their life, it's a big deal.
How special. I want to go back to, as you were saying, the nuns never thought that they would ever see you again. And I'm sure everybody, when they're over there and they have this eat, love, pray moment where they want to help the world and be a better person and da, da, da. But what was it about, is it something that was internally new? Was it the space? Was it the nuns? Was it what you saw that when you came back to Australia, you knew that you had to continue the work?
You know what? I wish I could find what that word is. Like, people say that to me all the time, and people say to me, "Oh, it must be so rewarding what you do." And I always go, "That's not the right word. It's not that it's not rewarding. It's not that it's not valuable. It's not that." And I certainly don't have an inner need that I needed to feel like I have a lovely life. I'm married to a beautiful man. I have 3 beautiful children. They're all married, which means I've got 6 great adult children. I've got 4 beautiful grandchildren. No, I didn't have anything missing in my life that I needed to do. But I think, for those who know Benny Tognini, he's our Australian ambassador for HER8. He's been on 5 projects. But I had this conversation with him, and I just said to him, it's just the fact that I can do it that made me do it. I can help, so I do. And that's not just in HER8. I think we've done that our whole lives. It's who I am. I constantly say to people, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, how can I help you? How can I help you? My husband says to me, can you not ask that question anymore? We're too busy in our lives doing all that. But it's just that I could help, and I did. And once you see the change in people's lives, and we sometimes, we're on location and we're teaching people, and their children are dying at their feet with starvation. We've had situations where I can tell you 1,000 terrible stories. One of them that I do tell often is this beautiful lady was a location, and she might have been 5 or 10 years older than me, and she came along on day one. And I'm not a hairdresser, but I still go out on location and help people, and help them learn how to section and everything. And I saw her the first day. I'm like, I like to talk to people and make sure they feel welcome and comfortable in the training. And I had to talk to her, and then I saw her the next day, and I'm like, how are you? And she's like, good. And then she didn't come on Wednesday. And I thought, oh, that's not unusual, because sometimes they might have a job that they go to one day a week, or they've got elderly parents, or their children are sick, or there's 1,000 reasons they can't come the whole 5 days. And then when she came up Thursday, I said, oh, I'm so glad to see you back. How are you? You missed yesterday. And she said, yes, one of my children died. What did I miss? He starved. And she had 4 children. She had 2 sons and 2 daughters. And the 2 sons she was trying to send to school, because over there it's still male dominant society over there, and they try and give the advantages to the boys. And her 2 daughters were twins, so she had twin daughters, and I think that they were 12 at the time, and they were sent out as prostitutes at night. That's how the family earned money. And over there, that's the reality of what these people live with. So this amazing mum lost one of her boys, and she's, we'll never be able to change her. We can't change what that situation was. But I can tell you now that all her remaining children in school, the girls don't prostitute anymore. She still lives in the slums, but they have food, and the kids are in education, and their life has changed. And I can tell you 1,000 horrible stories like that. So my friends that know I'm not a hairdresser, and they'll often say to me, are you still doing that hairy thing that you do? and I'm like, yeah, still doing that. My workmates are academics, and they're in a different space. And their view of the life, and many of our views of life, is that you need to study in something for 12 months, 3 years, whatever it is, to get your skill to go. Well, you know what? That's not the case where we are. In 5 days, they can have enough skill to change their life. They don't need a salon. They'll sit on a log, on a rock in the gutter, tiny chair, and they'll cut underneath a banana leaf tree, or in a basketball court. Their lives change instantaneously. And after 10 years of doing this, since we began sewing, after 10 years of doing this, if the only thing I've ever done is changed one family's life, I'm good with that. But I know we've changed thousands. So, one person's life is important. That's why I do it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, you're such a special human. What did you say to the hair community? As you said, you're not a hairdresser. You've come back from this holiday. You've taught people how to sew. I mean, they must have just looked at you like you had three heads and they were like, what? Who is this lady not in the hair industry? And now she wants us to all go over and help. I mean, how did you get them on board?
So first of all, I just wrote a newspaper article and I put it in our local paper and I said, does anybody want to help us? And one hairdresser said yes. So one hairdresser came with us. On the next project, 3 hairdressers came with us. On the next, 5 came with us. Now we take teams of 30
Amazing.
and we go on 8 international projects a year. So what happened is, I think for me, I never I just share the story. Now, of course, we've got hundreds of hairdressers that have either been on hair aid projects or they work in our hair aid community cuts program that we have running throughout Australia, which is, I'm going to call it a subsidiary of hair aid, but it's not really. It's just an offshoot. And I can tell you that started because lots of hairdressers were saying to us, because we were at the hair expo and, the hair industry events, and we'd have a little stand there and people would come up, oh, what do you do? And we'd tell them and they're like, that's exactly what I want to do. I think what hair aid is it created something that the hair and beauty industry always wanted to be there. It just hadn't been there. Mm-hmm. And I think the great thing about hair aid is that I'm not a hairdresser. As I could probably cut a straight cut of a hat due in desperation, right? But I don't want to be a hairdresser. I don't want to do what you guys do. I don't want to be a beautician and teach manicure, pedicure. I don't want to do that. What I'm really good at is putting projects together, liaising, doing all the organisation, managing things, motivating people. Let me do that. You guys get involved and you do your bit. If each one of us does the bit we're really good at, together we create massive, outcomes. And we have had some hairdressers that have come on projects and they're really well known around the world. We've had hairdressers who have a home salon and they come with us. It's not about who comes on a hair aid project. It's about what we create. And when you come on a hair aid project, I'm really mean. I'm a boss lady over there. They call me they call me the mama when I'm over there because I'm nice-ish, but we go into really critical locations. So there's things that you need to know about safety and security and culture. And so when we all come together, I make everybody stick to the rules of no makeup. Not even your nails have to be painted in a neutral colour. You all wear the hair aid t-shirt. You all wear long pants. You all wear daggy sand shoes. There's no name brands. We don't have people with Nike sand shoes in the slum community because it's dangerous. You take off all your jewelry, all your bling. So it's interesting because it puts us all on the same level. It makes us feel a little bit vulnerable because it's not how we typically are. But it also brings us down to a level where we don't intimidate the people that we're working with. So once you're there, anyone could be working alongside anyone from Tabitha Coffey to Caterina de Blase to Emiliano Vitali to Benny Tognini to Karen from Redcliffe. Doesn't matter. We're just there as a team to do some really great work and change people's lives with the gift of skills and tools.
Incredible. And I just love that how, no makeup, you're just stripped back, and as you said, that can be intimidating for people who have never seen that before. It's also intimidating for ourselves because the reason we put makeup on and jewelry on is to kind of be someone else. So I can imagine it takes a lot of inner strength as well to go into those communities and give them strength back. But what does a typical kind of trip look like for you? I mean, what do the days look like? Where are people sleeping? All the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah. So not a trip. And I'll tell you why I do that. Holiday. Because I can assure people it is not a holiday. So you need to fly in by the Sunday. And by noon Sunday, everybody has to be at the accommodation. And the accommodation that we stay in is, anywhere from 1 to 3 star. So it's clean, it's comfortable, it's safe. You will have indoor bathrooms, European baths, toilets. The plumbing may or may not work. The air conditioning will be debatable. But the locations where we stay, they're about 3 star. That gives you an indication. I say to people, if you can imagine, when you went on school camp and you used to have those bunk beds or the mattresses that, sort of that plus one type thing. Yeah. It's not as bad as some of those places, but it's generally that, because we don't waste money on the accommodation. We've got to get all the tools transported over there. So there's lots of costs that go around that. So we have everybody meets on the Sunday, and we all come together. Everyone gets issued their uniforms, and then you get divided into teams. So we could have anywhere between 6 to 9 locations when we go there. And we'll have a team leader. So usually someone who's been before. It's really interesting. You come on one hair aid project and it's in your blood, it's in your heart. You will come back, I can assure you. So it's great for me because it means that we've got people that have been there before, and so they run their location. And then we pack all the tools, because we have lots of tools donated, and everybody has scissors and combs and 4 section clips and a cape, and they get put into bags. And then I will have all the information. I'll be saying to people, okay, your location, you've got 23 people there tomorrow. Your location, you've got 12. And your location, you've got 67, whatever it is. And you all get into your groups. And then we go through the training program that we'll be covering for the week. And then we usually by then we're all feeling a little bit, not me because I've done it enough, but, the new volunteers will be feeling like, what have I signed up for? I'll never be able to do this. So we usually go out for like an early tea, and we break the team up, and just so that people can ask all the thousands of questions. What happens? Is there water on location? Are there toilets on location? How do I get there in the morning? That type of thing. But we do have drivers that come and pick everybody up, and we do have translators in locations. So a typical Monday through Friday is you leave the location. We all have breakfast together. Then you leave the location with your group and your driver, and you'll go and meet your community manager, and you'll meet your trainees, and you'll be working with them Monday through Friday every day to take them through those 5 basic haircuts. We always try and change you at least once, so you get to have a taste of another location. Your locations could be anywhere. You could be working in a rubbish dump. Benny Tongnini's gone and worked in a graveyard once. I'm like, sorry, Benny, but we've got a community that lives in a graveyard underneath the graves, and there's 225 who need to learn. He's like,
wow.
Great. You can sometimes the government closes down highways so that we can train. So you've got this barrier around you. There's like cars driving around you. You can be working in a slum community or in the street. You might be working in a jail. You might be working in a drug rehabilitation jail. You can be working anywhere. So you're allocated to those locations, and nobody gets to choose which location they go to. I allocate them based on your personality, your adventure that I can see in you, and just your own characteristics of what you can manage. So usually you're not allocated. You don't know actually where you're going until the Sunday when you get there. And then we work there Monday through Friday, and on Friday is a great celebration. It's the day where we have graduation, and for many of our trainees, it's probably the biggest day in their life. They never get this opportunity to do any form of training. They never get the opportunity where they can go and be given a skill that will change their life, and they never get an opportunity where they're gifted a toolkit. So they're incredibly proud by Friday. We try and make graduation really super special. We are working in really raw communities, but we try and take balloons in and try and make the area look nice. And we always take a beautiful cake, and if we can, and it's okay, we bring biscuits and fruit juice and that. And I know that sounds really lame. No. Many of them don't get that. They never have an opportunity. We've been places and they've never had cake before, or they've seen cake, or they've had it twice in their life, and they're 25 years old. And then we give them a hair aid certificate, and they are as proud as punch, and they stand up there. And in the Philippines, when we do graduation, we now do it at the town hall. Like, the government comes and they bring all our trainees together. In January, I think we trained 220 people, and the vice mayor of Quezon City came. It was a big celebration. Like, it's a massive deal. It's like graduating from university here. And then, of course, Friday's a very emotional day because it's very difficult because you have to leave your trainees. But then we work really strongly with the communities over there to make sure that our trainees will get continued support and people checking in on them. And then 6 months later, we go back and we check that they're okay. And if anyone needs advanced training, we give it to them. So yeah, it's sort of like every single project is different. I can never tell you exactly what's going to happen because we've been in places where somebody of importance has died in the community and the entire community shuts down for the funeral. We've been in places where the volcano down the road has erupted. We've been in locations where the monsoon rains have come through and we've had to paddle into the locations and paddle out on rickshaws. It's very real what we do. It's not what you'd expect anywhere in a developed country. But it's amazing. The outcome is so instantaneous. I think that's the thing that's the most amazing thing about it. We don't have to wait 6 months for them to get that. They learn like their life depends on it. That's because it does.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. How can the beauty industry help? I know there's going to be a lot of people sitting, listening to this, feeling like they just want to change people's lives and want to give back, especially after everything that we're going through at the moment. I think everyone's had a new realization of how much we don't need and how much connection is important. We can't cut hair. We don't know how to, but what can we do to help?
So look, don't worry about not being able to cut hair. I can't either. Since day one, when we said about hair cutting, they said to us, how about manicure and pedicure? And I've always said no. Like, getting scissors and section clips and capes and getting enough to take over for all the people that we train, that's really hard work. But to transport chemicals like nail polish and see, I'm not a beautician. You're going to have to help me out. What's the other chemicals?
Yes.
That's harder. That's harder. And I've always just said no. But around 2 years ago, I just went, you know what? They need to learn manicure and pedicure. It's a skill that's just as important as cutting hair, that they can instantaneously change their life. So we said to the government, we're going to teach we're going to teach manicure, pedicure. And we expected, I think, around 40 people to come along. 83 people turned up.
Oh my goodness.
And then the next day, 120 people turned up.
Wow.
And we work with hair salons over in all the countries where we are. So if we find a superstar, if we find Edward Scissorhands, or someone who's just ridiculously naturally talented, we work with them to get formal qualifications and move them further and get a full hairdressing outcome. So we work with one of the salons in Manila called David Salons, and he has 260 salons. He's the biggest salon chain in the Philippines. And we work closely with David, have done for a number of years. And he said to me, I need manicurists in my salons. He said, no matter how many people you train, I'll employ, which is incredible. So we can train them in 5 days with basic training. David Salons will give them additional training, and then they can be employed. So we did that. It was amazing. We went back in July that year and we trained another 40 people in another location, and every single country wants manicure, pedicure. So we're bringing it in. So it's almost like the birth of Hair Aid all over again. Beauticians, I desperately need you. I can't teach manicure, pedicure. I can't even paint my own nails that well. So any beauticians that would be keen to come and help us with that, any product companies that have end of line, out of stock, off color product, we will have it. Thank you very much. I need orange sticks. I need those white blocks. What are they called? Buffer blocks or something?
Yeah, yep.
I need files. I don't need clippers. You know, the little tiny nail clippers?
Yes.
Don't need them. They don't use them. They spread too much disease over there. So don't use them in the countries over there. So you know what? And I need like tiny bags to make up the toolkits and things like that. So that, you know, basically it doesn't matter who you are. I've got a job for you. I've got a place for you within Hair Aid, that beauticians can come along and help us make a difference. In the jail in Thailand that we just did in February this year, I beg your pardon, the director of prisons said to me, I've got 300 ladies here who need to learn manicure pedicure. When are you coming back?
Oh my goodness.
And that's what I said. I'm like, okay, sure. So, you know, the need is great. I can't do it myself. I just cannot do it myself. So, you know, I'm the end of this year, I was going to be putting out quite a massive call to the beauty industry to say, let's get going on this. There will be no more projects for Hair Aid for 2020. I'm not taking anybody anywhere until I know it's very safe. And obviously too, you know, many of our volunteers, when they get back to work, they need to get back on their feet and catch up and do lots of things. So yeah, there's sort of that time frame as well. But we need to do this. You know, the change, just like hair, is instantaneous, and we have the skills to give back. We have people I know that want to give back. So yeah, get involved. We need you, and they need you, more importantly.
Amazing. Selina, thank you so much for coming and having a chat and sharing your incredible story. I can only imagine how many people are listening to this who will get in contact with you. So I'll make sure we put all of your details into the show notes. So if anyone wants to join for 2021, they can definitely do so, and start making some life changes for not only themselves, but others as well.
Yeah, it is. That's very true too. It's one of the comments that we get back so often is that it changed the volunteer's life, and you know, and it does. It gives you a sense of reality you just can't get anywhere else.
I'm coming. I'm nominating, self-nominating. Definitely will be there in 2021.
Great. So yeah, contacted us. We are Hair Aid. We're the only Hair Aid in the world. You can find our webpage really easy. I'm the only Selina Tomasich in the world. You can find me pretty easy. Get on board, get involved. Let's make the world a little bit better place, because we can.
If there's ever been an episode that has made me want to do more and be more in life, it is this one. What a special type of human Selina is. If you're one of those people who want to give back and make a difference, then Hair Aid could be just that thing that helps you do that. Please register yourself to attend a trip and help out as a volunteer, or even donate your mani-pedi supplies over on the Hair Aid website at hairaid.org.au, where you'll directly speak with Selina. You have the power to make a difference. Until next time, stay connected.